All right, y'all, we are back with another video. I definitely had to bring y'all this because right now, Tim Walz is falling apart on live TV. He's crying, he's complaining, even a little upset that President Trump called him retarded, which everybody would agree that Tim Walz is definitely retarded. Not only that, his own employees pretty much saying that they told Tim Walz about these scams that was going on, in Minnesota. His own employees told him, and the employees came out and said that Tim Walz told them to stay quiet, pretty much threatening them. Keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything about it. And of course, Ilhan Omar knew all about this. Her and Tim Walz knew about this entire scam this entire time. And of course, when he go on, MSDNC or ABC, they always try to revert everything back to President Trump. Oh, President Trump a racist. He don't like Somali. That's the reason why he's saying this. It's like, no, President Trump is doing what he's doing because of the fraud and all the millions and billions of dollars that was stole from taxpayers in Minnesota. Now, we even got proof, of what the employees said about Tim Walz, and of course, along with Ilhan Omar, because President Trump is already talking about pretty much announcing that he's going to throw her up out of the country because she married her brother, and we're going to get to it. So please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Shout out to everybody showing so much support, and shout out to the one that always watches the entire video, and let me know in the comment section that you did stay to the end. And like I said, make sure you are subscribed with your notifications turned on. That way you will stay up to date with everything that's going on. But let's go ahead and dive straight into this, because now Tampon Tim Walz, the stolen valor. Let's dive into it. So you can see right here by Fox News right here, pretty much say that Minnesota state employees blame Governor Tim Walz for massive fraud. And let's go down here, because this is a little link that they wrote out. Now, their account had got deleted, but thank God somebody saved this right here. But it was the Minnesota Department of Human Services employees. Now, if we go right here, this is what all the employees, I think they say it's over like 400 employees, said that they warned Tim Walz and told him about the scams, about the Somali was stealing money, and he told them to shut up, pretty much keep your mouth closed. So they wrote down right here, Tim Walz is 100% responsible for massive fraud in Minnesota. We let Tim Walz know of fraud early on, hoping for a partnership in stopping fraud, but no. We got the opposite response. Tim Walz systematically retaliated against whistleblowers using monitoring threats, repression, and did his best to discredit fraud reports. Instead of partnership, we got the full weight of retaliation by Tim Walz, certain DFL members, and an indifferent mainstream medium is scary, isolating, and left us wondering, who can we turn to? So if you read that alone, they was warning him, and he pretty much told him to shut up. Keep your mouth closed. In addition to retaliating against whistleblowers, Tim Walz disempowered the Office of the Legislative Auditor, allowing agency to disregard their audit findings and guidance. Media and politicians supporting Tim Walz or the DFL agenda attacked whistleblowers who were trying to raise red flags on fraudulent activities. This is a cascade of systemic failures leading up to Tim Walz. Agency leaders appointed by Tim Walz willfully disregarded rules and laws to keep fraud reports quiet, even to the extent of threatening families of whistleblowers. These same leaders are not qualified for their jobs, instead getting leadership jobs via Tim Walz friendship, so state government were left floundering. DFL lawmakers refused to acknowledge fraud and deflected any serious conversation to stop fraud. Biased mainstream mediums such as WCCO and NPR show absolutely no interest in covering fraud happening in their own state. Programs, especially in behavioral health and disability services, were built without any guardrails against fraud, all in an attempt to extract more funding from legislature and the federal government. As staff, we firsthand witnessed and observed fraud happening, yet we were shut down. Real sign and told to keep quiet, sometimes more. Leadership did not want to appear to discriminate against certain communities, were unwilling to take action, such as stopping fraud that would have an adverse impact on their image. To date, no single agency leader has been held responsible for their role in fraud, whether it's Shireen Gandhi, Jess Gale, Jody Harpstead, Natasha Mertz, Eric Grumdahl, or others. It is a structure created and maintained by Tim Walz, who had created an environment of interrelated agencies and institutions, including the media, that help foster fraud through retaliation and turning a blind eye in exchange for political gain in the form of high-power agency leadership jobs or other perks. Fundamentally, Tim Walz is dishonest, lacks ethics, integrity, has poor leadership abilities, and has never taken any accountability for his role in fraud. Instead, Tim Walz deflects by blaming national politics for his own failings and distracts the public with inveterate lying. And he does that all the time. I told you, like, they asked him a question about all this fraud and stuff. The first thing he do is he turned to Trump. Oh, well, Donald Trump did this, when they ain't even talking about Trump. This is what he do. These lies include his reference of a budget surplus under his tenure. Fact is, Minnesota never had a surplus. We had been given federal ARPA funds that were conflated as surplus money, otherwise we'll be in a deficit. And those ARPA funds, which were meant to be temporary funds, were used to create more leadership positions for Tim Walz buddies. As such, we can't fight fraud in Minnesota alone, hence why we're appealing to the federal levels of government. We need all the help we can get as Tim Walz agency leaders have upped their brazen approach and covering up their knowledge of fraud. We are grateful to numerous solid politicians, especially the fraud committee, and media outlets who are trying to halt fraud. We are also grateful to other whistleblowers who are bravely stepping up. Thank you, New York Times, for bringing the plight of Minnesota to the national stage. And even New York Times posted this. So y'all let me know in the comment section, what do y'all think about this? So they said that they warned Tim Walz a while back, and he told them to shut up. Pretty much saying that Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar knew about this. It's the reason why President Trump went off on Ilhan Omar. And the reason why, like on the plane, which I'm going to show y'all the video in a minute, when he said something about pretty much announcing that he's going to throw her out of the country, especially after this fraud stuff and sending back Somalis, you know, and everything she's been saying, and then, like I said, marrying her brother. So it's getting bad. So now even every daughter, you know, posted right here. He said, massive, it's gotten so bad in Minnesota that hundreds of Tim Walz's own state employees are now turning on him. Walz threatened whistleblowers of massive fraud and enabled it. Resign, Tim. You fail your citizens. And like I said, his own employees. Why would 400 of his employees be lying when they pretty much said, hey, this is what's going on, and Tim Walz telling them to shut up? And you think Ilhan Omar don't know about it? You think Ilhan Omar don't know about what Somalians was doing and then sending the money over the country to El Shabaab? So, and like I said, that would, you know, pretty much, you know, had President Trump pissed off and pretty much removed a temporary protected status for Somalians in Minnesota. And that's another thing that Ilhan Omar got mad about. She just went on this rant about President Trump ain't gonna do nothing to me. I don't know who she thinks she is. Now, we checked this out right here by DAREALADOGG. He said the New York Times repeatedly exposed Minnesota's $1 billion fraud schemes as Tim Walz looked the other way and even retaliated against whistleblowers.
The New York Times wrote about it as well, saying that how fraud swamped Minnesota's social services system on Tim Walz's watch. And this is also a lawyer for one of the defendants saying no one was doing anything about the red flags. It was like someone was stealing money from the cookie jar and they kept refilling it. Lisa, there were whistleblowers who were ignored?
That is what we are hearing, and we did put additional whistleblower protection in during this last legislative session. We also tried to put in an office of Inspector General, an independent office of Inspector General, and the Democrats in the House denied us that opportunity. It had been passed in the Senate, bipartisan, and we could not get it through the House as a protection, I believe, for Governor Walz, not wanting that office of Inspector General on an outside view looking in to see what he was really doing. I think he prevented that from going forward.
And that's the reason why a lot of people in Minnesota is pretty much, that's why people in Minnesota, you know, pretty much saying that, hey, Tim Walz needs to go. He needs to resign. And even President Trump doubled down on calling, because President Trump called him retarded the other day. And you see about the reporter pretty much saying, you mentioned Tim Walz is, She said, you mentioned Tim Walz and you call him what many Americans to find an offensive word. I don't be getting this when Democrats say this. They always say every time President Trump say something is all of a sudden offensive. But when they call him a fascist, you a Hitler, you're a Mussolini, you're this, you did this. They don't, so that ain't offensive? Calling this man Hitler? Calling him a fascist? Jasmine Crockett just called him a Nazi or whatever. She just called him something the other day. And he say that Tim Walz is retarded. And they say, well, some Americans find it offensive. It's like no matter what this man say, they got something to say about it. But when they say something, it's cool. You call Donald Trump a fat, that ain't offensive over here. We can call him that. But as soon as the man protect himself and say something back, all of a sudden it's offensive. They want to play the victim. So check out what President Trump said.
How about that? In that same post, you mentioned Tim Walz, and you called him what many Americans do find an offensive word, retarded. Do you stand by that claim of calling Tim Walz retarded?
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with him. Absolutely, sure.
You don't think that
you have a problem with it? You know what?
President Trump said, yeah, I think he is retarded. You got a problem with it?
I think there's something wrong with him. Anybody that would do what he did, anybody that would allow those people into his state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia. We give billions of...
It's funny that she'll say something about that. President Trump said something about him being retarded and said that's offensive. But like 2 months ago, I showed y'all the video of Tim Walz was on stage. Y'all remember when President Trump went that whole weekend not posting? And they said, oh, President Trump done passed. He ain't posted all weekend. They say something done happened to him. And then you got Tim Walz that was on stage pretty much saying, oh, man, I thought we had some good news that Trump wasn't here no more. Look how offensive that is, wishing that the man was dead. That's what Tim Walz just said a couple months ago. It was like literally 2 to 3 months. I think it was 2 months ago because I showed the video. But he can call Tim Walz a retard and all of a sudden that's offensive. But Tim Walz was hoping that President Trump was dead. Oh, that ain't offensive to them, though. That's what I'm saying, man. It's just crazy.
What he did, anybody that would allow those people into his state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia. We give billions of dollars to Somalia. It's not even a country because it doesn't function like a country. It's got a name, but it doesn't function like a country.
He said it got a name, but it don't function like a company.
Oh, Governor, let me have you weigh in on this, because part of your initial response to President Trump's post was to call for him to release the results of his MRI. And I want to give you a chance to give our viewers exactly a sense of what you mean. What exactly were you suggesting by that, Governor?
Well, here we got a guy on Thanksgiving where we spent time with our families, we ate, we played Yahtzee, we cheered for football or whatever. This guy is apparently in a room ranting about everything else. This is not normal behavior. It is not healthy. And presidents throughout time have released a couple things. They've released their tax returns, not Donald Trump, and they've released their medical records, not Donald Trump. And look, the MRI is one thing, but I think what's most concerning about this is, as your viewers out there are listening, has anyone in the history of the world ever have an MRI assigned to them and have no idea what it was for, as he says? So look, it's clear the president's fading physically. I think the mental capacity, again, ranting, crazily at midnight on Thanksgiving about everything else, there's reasons for us to be concerned. This is a guy that randomly says the airspace over Venezuela is closed. He's ruminating on if you could win a nuclear war. Look, this is a serious position. It's the most powerful position in the world. And we have someone at midnight throwing around slurs that demonize our children. And at the same time, he's not solving any of the problems. So I'm deeply concerned that he is incapable of doing the job.
Governor.
I'll tell you what does not add to our nation's character and integrity is refugees who come here under the alleged plight of asylum and fleeing persecution and then come to the United States to abuse our system and rip off American taxpayers. And as I pointed out, the New York Times, to their credit, it was about 6 months too late, but they did write about how Somali immigrants in Minnesota have been ripping off American taxpayers. In fact, 86 people have been charged in a rampant and widespread fraud scheme spanning multiple programs in Minnesota. Of those 86, 78 of those people are Somali, 91% of them charged. So far, 59 of those people have been convicted for their roles in fraud plots that have stolen $1 billion from taxpayers. In one scheme, and this is egregious, a nonprofit and its affiliates with these Somali migrants claimed to have fed tens of thousands of American children during the pandemic. They were reimbursed for those meals by taxpayers. However, federal prosecutors found that almost all of those meals were never even delivered to hungry children. In fact, those organizations' leaders spent the money on houses, luxury cars, and real estate in Turkey and Kenya. Another scheme involved hundreds of organizations who were reimbursed for services that were supposed to help people at risk of homelessness. Once again, those services were never provided. All of this has happened under Democrat leadership in a Democrat-run state where these refugees, these migrants are coming to the United States. They are abusing our system. They are draining our resources that should be going to law-abiding, taxpayer-funded tax-paying Americans, and this president is not going to put up with it anymore.
Even Patrick Bet-David is speaking out. He said state whistleblowers and federal prosecutors say Minnesota may have lost over $1 billion to welfare and social services fraud under Governor Tim Walz, including a $250 million plus school meal scheme. It's bad news if he knew about the fraud, ignored warnings, and retaliated against whistleblowers. Oh, man. Now, here go the part right here where President Trump pretty much said, hey, if she married her own brother, man, we ought to throw her the blank up out this country. Pretty much announcing, hey, he's going to throw her up out this country. Because now they really looking into it because it have been, and we done showed the documents of her marrying her own brother. We showed the documents on this channel numerous of times, and everybody else done showed it. So President Trump them is now looking to that, and that's the reason why he said, hey, she done married her own brother. We're going to throw her the blank up out this country. Watch, check it out.
The people from different countries that are not friendly to us and countries that are out of control themselves. Countries like Somalia that have virtually no government, no military, no police. All they do is go around killing each other. Then they come into our country and tell us how to run our country. We don't want them.
What are you talking about?
You got to talk up.
She said how many countries? Is there a list?
Well, I guess we gave you 19, right? And it's probably more than that.
Is that what you mean when you mean third world countries, those 19?
No, I don't think they're all third world, but in many cases they are third world. They're not good countries. They're very crime-ridden countries. They're countries that don't do a good job. They're countries that don't register from the standpoint of success. And we, frankly, don't need their people coming into our country telling us what to do.
When you talk about
I'm talking about like Somalia, where you have a congressman goes around telling everybody about our Constitution, and yet she supposedly came into our country by marrying her brother. Well, if that's true, she shouldn't be a congressman, and we should throw her the hell out of our country.
He said, if that's true, that she married her own brother, we should throw her the hell up out of our country. I want to play that little last part again so people can hear it. That this man is not playing around at all with Ilhan Omar. She can go around talking about what President Trump won't do to her and all type of stuff because all she does is make threats and lies. She made fun of Charlie Kirk, when he got assassinated, making fun of him. Like, this woman got to go. She don't care about the United States. She done said it plenty of times. She called us ignorant, we stupid, but yet she wants to stay here, though.
Telling everybody about our Constitution, and yet she supposedly came into our country by marrying her brother. Well, if that's true, she shouldn't be a congressman, and we should throw her the hell out of our country.
If that's true, and like I said, of course we did. We already know that they are looking into that, and the reason why President Trump says I'm about throwing her out of the country. So, I mean, man, like this stuff it's just getting out of hand now. It's just really getting out of hand. Now, President Trump been doubling down on, like I said, getting, people out of this country, especially these illegals. But he did say something about on President Trump on reverse migration. Let's check this out.
What do you mean by reverse migration?
It means get people out that are in our country, get them out of here. I want to get them out. We got a lot of people in our country that shouldn't be here, and they came in through Biden, and he was the worst president in the history of our country. But the single biggest thing he did was allow millions of people into our country that shouldn't be here. Drug dealers, prisons were opened up and allowed to come into our country. You take a look at the people that were allowed to come into our country. We're paying a big price for it, and we will for years to come, including the recent killer of two wonderful National Guards people. And I'll tell you what, That animal should not have been allowed to come into our country.
And that's what I'm saying. So President Trump is still doubling down.
Mr. President, you said that you might denaturalize some American citizens. Can you talk about?
You mean people that are in here that shouldn't be here?
That became Americans? Are you trying
Well, we'll
to
see. I mean, yeah, if we have criminals that came into our country and they were naturalized maybe through a Biden or somebody that didn't know what they were doing. If I have the power to do it, I'm not sure that I do, but if I do, I would denaturalize absolutely.
Mr. President, you said.
Boy. Oh man. So and another thing is that I want to show y'all is that, boy, they are freaking out over every time President Trump mentions something about the ballroom. I don't know what it is, but these Democrats just go crazy. Anytime he make a statement, when he already said that with the ballroom, you know, didn't cost the taxpayers nothing, didn't use no taxpayer dollars, but yet Democrats is still lying, saying that this man used taxpayer money for this ballroom. And President Trump announced, he said, the presidential ballroom, which I am building at the White House, which with all private donation and funding, zero cost to the American taxpayer, will be at its completion. The most beautiful and spectacular ballroom anywhere in the world. It is something that has been needed and desired at the White House for over 150 years, but something which no other president was equipped to do, but I am, and as long as we're going to do it, we are going to do it right. It will be a magnificent addition to the White House, the most important since the building of the West Wing. So every time he says anything about that ballroom, boy, they get pissed off, and it's crazy. So another thing I want y'all to listen to right here. President, he said, how long does your administration plans to pause asylum?
Your administration made a lot of moves throughout the last few days after we know that Afghan national is the suspected shooter of these National Guardsmen.
Yeah, people that shouldn't be in our country. This one.
So you announced that asylum.
And that includes Somalians and it includes plenty of others.
How long does your administration plan to pause asylum into the U.S.?
I think a long time.
Can you give any kind of time?
We don't want those people. We have enough problems. We don't want those people.
Is that a year, 2 years?
No time limit.
And then,
but it could be a long time.
You said that
we don't want those people. Do you understand that?
I understand.
You understand it?
I understand.
Who are you with?
I'm with News Nation. So
okay,
my name's Lindsay.
News Nation. Great. Let me just tell you something. We don't want those people. Does that make sense? You know why we don't want them? Because many of them are no good, and they shouldn't be in our country.
What do you mean by those
exactly
people?
right.
The people from different countries that are not friendly to us, and countries that are out of control themselves. Countries like Somalia that have virtually no government, no military, no police. All they do is go around killing each other. Then they come into our country and tell us how to run our country.
Exactly, because that's exactly what Ilhan Omar do. She always saying, "Oh, Donald Trump should do this. Donald Trump should do this." How can you come over here and tell us what to do and tell the president how to run the country? It is just crazy to do that. And so you sure here say the scandal allowing massive fraud that not only robbed the taxpayers but funded terrorists in Somalia is, and likely the USA, has me wondering how long people remain willing to deal with this stuff through electoral process. And these are the two that is together in on this entire scam. They are in this together. And the reason why President Trump is going off on Tim Walz is he's allowing it in his state. And then Ilhan Omar, who's running around crying like she's been doing, calling President Trump's supporters ignorant and all type of stuff.
In this country, we do not blame the lawlessness of an individual on a whole community. What we also know is that there is not a single evidence that the president or his coolies have put forth that there are any single resource from taxpayers in Minnesota that has gone to aid and abet terrorism. That language is dangerous. That language puts the lives of Somalis not only in Minnesota, but across the country in danger. And if the president believed that and he had evidence, he would take people to court. So we are sick and tired of the president waking up one day and deciding to put forth falsehoods and demonize whole communities, while the ignorant people that support him then take the lies that he's spreading and use it as a fact. We've seen it during the campaign where he said Asians were eating cats and dogs. We've seen his vice president repeat those lies. We've seen the media run it as a headline as if it was a fact. That is shameful. That is shameful. That is ignorant. It makes us look like a stupid nation that does not believe in truth but traffics in lies. It makes the world mock us, and we are better than that. We are better than that as Americans.
So, I mean, just don't make any sense at all. And like he said, he's going to throw her up out of the country. And Hecko Tim Walz right here, what this guy is good at is just, you know, not answering questions. Whatever he get caught doing, he'll just divert it over to, oh, well, Donald Trump do this or Donald Trump do that, or he just don't answer the question at all. So let's check out what he said.
Well, speaking of the Somali community, President Trump is targeting them and your state in part. He's citing fraud as the reason for his crackdown. Dozens of people of East African descent have been charged, convicted, and sentenced for stealing more than $1 billion in taxpayer money from government programs during COVID. As you know, Governor, that is more than Minnesota spends each year to run its Department of Corrections. So I want to give you a chance to respond to this. Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems. And I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state.
He said Minnesota is a well-run state. So he calling a state that's well-run, that's been stealing millions and billions of taxpayer dollars, a well-run state. This guy's a fraud, man. How can, after finding out, and then you was alerted on this, Tim Walz, that your own employees told you about this, you told them to shut up. And now you want to say that Minnesota is a well-run state after we just find out that, you know, Somalia's been stealing money from taxpayers, and you calling that a well-run state? No, it's not a well. If it was a well-run state, this right here would never happen. So stop lying, Tampon Tim Walz, a.k.a. Stolen Valor.
AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals. There's a reason Minnesota ranks as the top, lowest childhood poverty, best place for children to live. People are taking advantage of that. They're going to prison. That is totally disconnected with demonizing an entire group of people who...
See, now he want to talk about demonizing the whole, but he ain't talking about the fraud, though. See, that's the thing. He always going back to President Trump, and this is what he do. If you notice, Kamala Harris do the same thing. They just give you word salad, or they'll just try to revert the whole thing over to Trump, just as... because they don't want to answer questions. If he go to Fox News, they're not going to let him get, like Brett Baer or somebody, they're not going to let him get away with it. You're going to answer them questions, you come to Fox News. That's why they stay away from over there and just go to where they feel like it's safe at. Because it don't be like, sometimes it don't be no follow-up questions or anything like that. This guy's a clown.
Came here fleeing civil war and created a vibrant community that makes Minnesota and this country better. But that's Donald Trump. Deflect, demonize, come up with no solutions. He's not going to help fix anything on fraud. My God.
Oh, he can't help fix anything on fraud, but you can. See, this is the thing. Think about it. If this didn't come out, it wouldn't be going on now. Because if Kamala would have won, you think they would have brung all this fraud up? They would have just buried it. And they said that they told Kamala Harris about it too, but she never reached back. So they was all in on this.
There's a big difference between fraud and corruption is something he knows about.
Didn't answer no questions at all, bro. This is just crazy. And even Elon Musk said it right here. Any violation of the oath of citizenship should result in deportation. I agree. We need to start denaturalizing American haters and immigration fraudsters like Ilhan Omar, as we need to do it quickly. So I mean, man, this is just crazy, man. This is just absolutely crazy. They say by Anna, this lady is spot on. Ilhan Omar's arrogant defense just put a giant spotlight on the Somali TBS fraud, and now President Trump is ripping it away.
You know what's interesting about the Somalian deportation? They want to remove the protective order. The person they need to blame is Ilhan Omar, because basically she brought so much negative attention because she's so arrogant. And the problem that these people don't understand is gratitude. Because basically it would be like you inviting someone over for dinner and then them complaining about the food and then refusing to leave, saying, we're not going anywhere. It's so rude and gross. And you know what? Like, nobody cares about your cause. Everybody just wants you to leave because we're so sick of this entitled attitude to our taxpayer money. Again, you invite someone over and they're like, give me your paycheck. I'm not leaving. And by the way, your house is a mess. These people actually are crazy. But you know what? Just like everybody else, you're gonna get out. And someone like me can't wait.
Wow. Boy. He says, say what you want about Ilhan Omar, but at least she is accurate reflection of the district that she represents. Bombshell ICE sweep in Minneapolis, St. Paul finds 50% of immigrants had committed immigration fraud. Ilhan Omar married her own brother to come to America poor. She gets married again and divorced. Then for the third marriage, she marries a white man and now has a net worth up to $30 million. But she continues to trash America and white men. Representative Omar has paid husband political consulting firm nearly $2.8 million. And I showed y'all this video the other day of her just saying that white men is the one that should be more feared because they're the one causing the most deaths and stuff in America. Just check it out.
I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country.
Oh, man. So like I said, y'all get in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think about all this. Thank you all for watching, especially the ones that made it to the end. But yet these two are frauds. And, of course, now you see all the money that they've been stealing in Minnesota. Now this woman has a net worth up to $30 million. So like I said, thank you all for watching. Let me know what y'all think down below, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.